The night sky looked like it had a grudge against the world. The rain came down hard, so hard. Then, a black car sped down the lonely road. No traffic, no houses, just silence and streetlights that flickered like they were tired of doing their job. Suddenly, the back door of the car flung open. A tiny hand was shoved out, followed by a scared little girl, just 3 years old. With one cold push, she was thrown out like garbage. She fell hard onto the wet pavement. Her knees scraped. Her palms bled. Her voice trembled. But all she could do was cry. Not loud. Just that kind of soft, hopeless cry that sounds like a broken toy left in the rain. She wore a torn pink dress that used to be pretty, once upon a time. Now it looked like it had fought 10 battles and lost them all. Her tiny feet were bare. Her only treasure was a broken necklace hanging on her neck. A small, cheap plastic heart that was cracked right through the middle. The car didn't stop. Of course not. Why would it? After all, it had more important things to do than care about a baby shivering in the rain. The wind slapped her face. The rain soaked her hair. Thunder roared like an angry parent, and the lightning flashed as if the sky itself wanted to take pictures of her pain. She looked left. She looked right. No one. Nothing. Just her and the sound of a dog barking somewhere far away, probably warning the ghosts that someone else had joined the streets. She walked a little, stumbled, sat down, hugged her knees like they were the only family she had. She didn't know where she was. She didn't even know why she was there. But she knew one thing. They didn't want her. Not the people in the car. Not the world. Not even the rain. But hey, she was only 4. Maybe tomorrow someone would come looking for her. Maybe the people in the car made a mistake. Yeah, right. Because throwing a baby out in the middle of the road during a thunderstorm is the kind of oops people make every day. She didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning. The street had opened its arms to her, and it never lets go easily. At the early hour of the next day, around 5 a.m., Mrs. Daniels, a 36-year-old woman known for 2 things, her early morning walks and her hatred for missed buses, was heading to work as usual. Coffee in one hand, handbag in the other, she walked through the sleepy street. Then she saw her. A tiny shadow wobbling like a tired puppy. A little girl walking barefoot on the cold street, dragging her feet like she had nowhere to go and no reason to rush. Mrs. Daniels blinked twice, thought maybe her eyes were playing tricks on her. Wait, is that a child? At this hour? She squinted. The child didn't even flinch when a dog barked from across the road. She just kept walking, head down, arms wrapped around herself like she was hugging her hunger. Mrs. Daniels slowed down a bit, then sighed. Probably a neighbor's kid. Maybe sleepwalking or playing poor in a drama. Who knows these children of nowadays? She checked her watch, cursed the time, and walked off to catch her bus. Because, of course, real life doesn't stop moving. That evening, Mrs. Daniels came back tired and worn out from work. Her heels were killing her. Her boss had been yelling all day, and the traffic was so bad it could make a grown man cry. As she turned the corner to her street, guess who was still there? Yup, that same little girl. Only now she wasn't walking. She was sitting by the gutter, holding her stomach, eyes half closed, whispering for food like her voice had given up too. Please, bread. She muttered to a woman passing by, who simply turned up her nose like poverty had an odor. Mrs. Daniels stood frozen. The guilt smacked her right in the chest. You've got to be kidding me. She's still here? She walked toward the girl slowly, with a mix of concern and sarcasm. Okay, little Miss Mystery, let's start with the basics. She knelt down. What's your name, sweetheart? The girl looked up with big, empty eyes. My name is Linda. Okay, Linda, nice name. Do you have a last name, a home, a school, anything? Linda just stared at her, shook her head slowly. 1, 2, 3 times. Not a word. Not even a tear this time. Fantastic, Mrs. Daniels muttered. A tiny ghost with no history. How convenient. But deep down, her heart was breaking. Mrs. Daniels didn't sleep well that night. Her pillow felt like guilt. Her blanket felt like shame. By morning, she'd made up her mind. She gave Linda a warm bath, fed her, and dressed her in one of her niece's old outfits. Oversized, but at least it wasn't falling apart like that pink battle-worn dress she came with. She took Linda to the nearest orphanage. It was clean. The staff smiled. The kids were noisy. It felt like a place with hope. Mrs. Daniels bent down and kissed her forehead. "Be good, okay? Someone here will help you. Maybe even find your family." Linda just nodded. No smile, no hug, just those same silent, haunting eyes. As Mrs. Daniels turned to leave, she felt a strange chill. Something about this child wasn't adding up. Not her silence, not her calm, not even the way she held onto that broken necklace like it was more precious than life itself. But of course, it was just a child. What could possibly be wrong? The orphanage looked nice from the outside. Painted walls, swing sets, laughter floating in the air like everything was perfect. But behind those cheerful walls, Linda was living in a different world. A world where being quiet, different, and unwanted made her the easiest target. At first, the other children looked at her like she was invisible. Then they started seeing her. And that was the problem. The name-calling begins. "Look who's here, the street rat. Ew, did you see her hair? She looks like she brushed it with a fork. Bet she eats garbage. Maybe we should call her Trashy Linda." The words flew like stones, sharp, cruel, and completely unnecessary. Linda didn't answer. She just sat on her bed, staring at the floor, hugging her broken necklace like it could protect her from the world. When it was time to eat, Linda learned fast that hunger wasn't her only enemy. The moment her plate was served, 2 or 3 kids would surround her like vultures. They'd laugh and snatch her food right from her tray. "Oops, did your hand slip? Guess you weren't hungry anyway." One even pushed her once, just for fun, spilling her water on the floor. The caregivers were busy, or pretending not to see. Maybe they thought it was just kids being kids. It got worse. They started giving her special duties. Not officially, but Linda knew the rules now. "Hey you, fold my clothes. Clean under my bed, or I'll hide your shoes. Polish my sandals. I want them to shine like your forehead." And when she didn't move fast enough, they poured powder on her bed or threw her blanket out the window. They laughed. She stayed silent. That was Linda's style. Quiet suffering. No tears, no screams, just silence, like been trained by pain itself. One day, she found a piece of bread one dropped. She picked it quickly and sat in a corner, about to eat it. One boy yelled, "Ew! Look, she eats from the floor like a dog." The others joined in, barking and laughing like it was a comedy show. Linda froze. She didn't eat the bread. She just stood up, dusted her hands, and walked away. Slow, quiet, still holding that stupid broken necklace like it was the only thing in the world that hadn't turned on her. But she endured. No one came to rescue her. No one defended her. But Linda endured, like a little candle in the wind, flickering but not dying. Also, for Linda, nighttime was the scariest part of the day. As soon as the lights went off in the girls' dormitory, the real monsters came out. Not under the bed, but in the beds beside hers. It started small. A pillow tossed at her head, a pinch on her leg, a whisper in her ear, "Don't sleep or we'll shave your eyebrows." She stayed wide awake, staring at the ceiling in fear, C-Day clutching her blanket like it was a shield made of clouds. And she cried softly into her pillow. Every night, she held her broken heart-shaped necklace to her lips and whispered to it like it could hear, "Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad. Please come back." Of course, no one answered, just like every other night. But Linda still whispered. She had no choice, because that little necklace, it was the only one that never hurt her. Once, a van came to the orphanage. A rich family wanted to adopt a child. All the children rushed to wear their best clothes. They smiled like their lives depended on it. Which sadly, it did. Linda just sat in the corner. No dress, no hope. She wasn't even asked to come forward. It was like she was part of the wall. When the visitors left, the kids returned, some disappointed, some hopeful. One girl smirked at Linda and said, "Even rich people know trash when they see it." Linda smiled, not because it was funny, but because if she didn't smile, she would be slapped. It was a quiet afternoon. The sun was soft. The air was warm, but something in Linda's chest felt cold, empty. She walked slowly to the caregiver's office, barefoot like always. Her fingers trembled. Her lips were dry, but her voice, just for a moment, held courage. She knelt down, bowed her head, and said softly, "Please, Ma, I want to go to school. Please, please allow me to go." The caregiver looked up, her eyebrows raised like Linda had just asked to fly to the moon. "Oh?" she said with a sarcastic smile. "So, you want to go to school?" Linda nodded quietly. "Yes, Ma." The woman sighed. "When we have another scholarship opportunity, I'll call you." She didn't say when, she didn't say how, but Linda believed her, because that's what hope does. It survives on crumbs. Later that evening, the news spread through the orphanage like wildfire. Not because the caregiver told anyone, but because children have a way of sniffing out anything that sounds like dreams, just so they can burn it down. One of the older girls laughed first, loud, mean, pointing. "Guess who wants to go to school? Madam PhD herself." Another child added, "Better start packing your books, Professor Linda." Then came the cruel jokes. "Hope they offer a course in begging and broom holding. That's her talent." Maybe she wants to be a teacher, so she can teach silence, since that's the only thing she knows how to do. "I heard they're opening a new school in the dustbin. You'll fit right in." They mocked her in front of everyone. They imitated her kneeling posture. One girl even knelt beside a mop and shouted, "Please, sir, I want to go to Harvard, even if I can't spell it." The room roared with laughter. Linda, she just stood there, quiet, a thin smile on her face. Not because she found it funny, but because if she didn't pretend to smile, her tears would expose her. And that would be worse. Because in that orphanage, showing weakness was like pouring blood into the water. But deep inside, while they laughed at her, Linda went to a corner, sat on the cold cement floor, and stared into space. Her stomach was empty. Her feet were dirty, but her mind was full, full of quiet thoughts, full of silent prayers. Someday, I will wear a uniform too. Someday, I will read big books and write my name. Someday, their laughter won't matter. And that someday, it became her fire. 3 months later, the orphanage smelled like joy for once. The kitchen was filled with bags of rice, cartons of noodles, cooking oil, milk, even biscuits, real biscuits. A well-dressed man had come to donate food to the orphanage. The caregivers couldn't stop smiling. Their voices were suddenly soft and sweet, like honey mixed with sugar. They called all the children out. "Line up, stand straight, say thank you." And like tiny robots, the children obeyed. One after the other, they chorused, "Thank you, sir." The man smiled politely, waved, and turned to leave the compound. That should have been the end of it. But not for Linda. Something inside her couldn't stay quiet. Maybe it was hunger. Maybe it was pain. Maybe it was the dream that refused to die. As the man reached the gate, Linda broke from the line. She ran, barefoot, heart racing, straight to him. She knelt down, grabbed the edge of his shirt, and cried out, "Please, sir, I want to go to school. Please send me to school." For a moment, silence. Even the birds paused. The man looked down at her, startled. His smile disappeared. He was surprised. And worse, he looked embarrassed. He gently pulled his shirt from her hands, gave her a tight smile, and said nothing. Then he walked away, just like that. As soon as the gate closed behind him, it was like someone pressed play on the cruelty button. The children exploded in laughter. "She did it again! Madam School Fees! Did you see her holding his shirt? Desperation 101. One girl shouted, "Next time, hold the billionaire tighter. Maybe that'll help." Linda stood there, frozen, but not for long, because one of the caregivers stormed toward her, her eyes dark with anger. Slap! The sound echoed like a gunshot. Linda's small body hit the ground, the taste of blood mixed with dust in her mouth. She didn't understand what hurt more, the slap or the shame. The caregiver shouted, "How dare you approach a visitor like that? Are you mad? That's very rude." Linda cried, I'm sorry, Ma." Another caregiver barked, "Lock her in the dark room. Maybe the rats will teach her manners." One of the guards dragged Linda by the arm. She screamed. She begged, "I'm sorry. Please, Ma. I won't do it again. Please don't lock me in." But they didn't care. The iron door creaked open. The dark room was cold, dusty, and smelled like old tears and rotting bread. They pushed her in and shut the door. Clang! Silence! Again. Silence that filled with darkness and fear and the laughter outside. She wants to be better than us, too proud. She thinks she's special because she wants school, as if she's not just another street rat. But inside the darkness, in that pitch-black room, Linda sat curled up in a corner. Her cheek was swollen, her heart more so. But through the pain, she whispered to herself, I didn't do wrong. I only asked. Over and over, she repeated it like a prayer. I didn't do wrong. I only asked. It was exactly 3 days later. The orphanage compound was unusually quiet when a sleek black car pulled in. The same billionaire had returned, but this time he didn't come with food. He came with a firm voice and a strange request. I want to see the little girl, the one who approached me. Suddenly, the room went cold. The caregivers exchanged quick glances, not just of surprise, but of fear. Fear, because none of them had checked the dark room since that day. Not even once. The head caregiver forced a smile. Oh yes, that girl. She's around. Please give me some minutes to, get her. The man nodded slowly, his eyes suspicious but quiet. The head caregiver walked away, fast, her heart beating faster. She rushed to the dark room with shaky hands and opened the rusty metal door. The smell hit her first, then the silence, then the sight. Unconscious, Linda was lying on the floor. Still, cold, unmoving. Her tiny fingers were curled, her lips cracked, her eyes shut. Jesus, the woman whispered. She knelt down quickly, touched her, and called out, Linda! Linda! Nothing. More caregivers ran in. In minutes, they carried her into the orphanage van like a sack of sorrow. Dust clung to her body. Her dress was stained. Her breathing, barely there. The van engine roared to life. The gate was opening. But just as they were about to drive out, the billionaire watching through the window ran outside and waved at them to stop. They froze. He walked quickly toward the car, peered through the glass, and saw her. His face tightened. What happened to her? The head caregiver stepped out, smiling weakly, almost shaking. Oh, we don't really know. She just suddenly fell sick, maybe fever or something. But don't worry, we're taking her to the hospital now. Urgent attention, you know. The billionaire stared at her, his eyes sharp like a blade. But he said nothing, for now. He looked at the driver instead. Take her to my hospital, Maranatha Hospital. Tell Dr. Benson I sent you, right now. The driver nodded. Yes, sir. As they drove off, the billionaire stood still, watching the car disappear. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. He just kept thinking something didn't sit right, and he intended to find out soon. At Maranatha Hospital, the nurses rushed out the moment they saw the orphanage car screech to a stop. They carried Linda in like a bag of bones. Her skin was cold, her lips dry, her body lifeless. One of the nurses gasped, How long has she been unconscious? The driver stammered, 3 days. 3 days? The nurse looked at him like he was mad. She's a child. What were you waiting for? Her funeral. They didn't wait for a reply. There was no time. They wheeled Linda straight into the emergency room. Dr. Benson entered within seconds. One look at Linda, and his heart sank. Her body was too still. No signs of food in her stomach, a nurse said. Dehydrated. She's been starved. Dr. Benson rubbed his forehead. Start IV fluids. Monitor oxygen. Blood work now. As they placed oxygen on her tiny face, she looked like a ghost, too weak to cry, too silent to scream. But somehow, her heart still beat, soft, slow but steady. Minutes later, the billionaire stormed into the hospital. He didn't ask to sit. "Where is she?" he asked. Dr. Benson met him with a sad face. "She's alive, but barely, malnourished, severely dehydrated." The man shook his head and looked through the glass at her small frame on the hospital bed. Eyes shut, skin pale, hope flickering. A moment later, they led him into the room. He pulled a chair beside her bed and held her tiny hand. It was ice cold. He whispered, "You're stronger than this, little one. Come on, wake up." She didn't move. Tears threatened to fall from his eyes, but he held them in. He didn't want pity. He wanted justice, and he wanted her to live long enough to get it. 2 days later, she moved her fingers, just slightly. The nurse ran to call the doctor. "She's responding." Dr. Benson rushed in, checked her pulse, checked her eyes, checked everything. The billionaire watched, frozen in hope, and then Linda's eyes opened, slowly, weakly. She blinked, once, twice, then tears rolled down her cheeks. She was alive and awake. The man leaned close and whispered with a smile, "You did it, sweetheart. You came back." The moment the billionaire left the hospital and took Linda home, the news didn't stay quiet for long. Hospitals talk, staff whisper, and soon the orphanage knew. One of the junior caregivers came running into the office, panting like she just escaped death. "Ma! Ma! She's alive!" The head caregiver, who was sipping tea with loud fake peace, dropped her cup mid-sip. "Who?" The girl swallowed. "Linda." There was 10 seconds of holy silence. Then someone else added, and the billionaire has taken her home. She's no longer in the hospital. They say she's now staying in his mansion. The head caregiver blinked twice. "Oh, really? Mansion? Must be nice." Her voice was calm, but inside, thunder, earthquake, spiritual confusion. That night, she called a secret emergency meeting. Just her, 4 close staff, and nervous teacups. "Do you think she remembers?" one whispered. "She was unconscious? What could she remember?" The second one replied, trying to sound confident. But the head caregiver just sat still. She wasn't so sure. Because children like Linda, they may cry in silence, but they watch. And if she spoke to that billionaire, their careers were over, their secrets exposed. The next morning, the head caregiver dressed in her most motherly outfit. She practiced her smile in the mirror until it no like a threat. Then she made a call. "Hello, sir. Yes, this is Mrs. Francis from the orphanage. We heard about Linda. Thank God for your kindness. We were just about to come visit. You know, we've always loved her like our own." The man was silent, too silent. Then his voice came. "Don't worry. I'll be visiting you soon." She froze. No warm tone, no polite smile in his voice, just 5 words that sounded like a promise. "I'll be visiting you soon." She ended the call, turned to her staff, and whispered, "We're finished." 2 weeks later. It was a sunny afternoon. The billionaire took Linda to the fanciest ice cream shop in the city, according to her request. The place was colorful, bright, sweet-smelling. Kids were laughing. Birthday balloons floated near the ceiling. But Linda? She just sat there, her small hands gripping a melting cone. The billionaire watched her closely. She was healed on the outside, but something inside her was still locked. He smiled and said, "Pick any flavor, or take 2. You deserve everything." Linda picked vanilla, her favorite. She licked it once, and then her eyes became distant. Her hand froze, her lips trembled. Then quietly, like a whisper drowning in the wind, she said, "My grandma brought me here once. She bought me ice cream and. A tear dropped down her cheek. Then another. The billionaire leaned closer gently. "And what, Linda? What happened next? Try to remember, sweetheart." She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Not a word, not a breath, just silence. Dead silence. The billionaire could see the storm in her little eyes. She was remembering something. Her tiny fingers clutched the table. Her legs started to shake under the chair. But her lips sealed. The billionaire didn't push her. Instead, he slowly reached across the table and held her hand. "It's okay," he said softly. "You don't have to force it. When your heart is ready, it will speak." Linda nodded slowly, but didn't look at him. She was still stuck in that memory. That night, when they returned home, Linda didn't talk. She just sat by the window, staring at the stars. She slept with the light on. And for the first time since she moved in, she whispered a name in her sleep. Grandma? Meanwhile, the billionaire couldn't sleep. He was lost in thought. Who abandoned a child in the rain at night? Does this have anything to do with her grandma? And in that moment, he knew. There was a story behind that rainy night. Linda had told him, and he was going to uncover it, even if it meant turning the whole city upside down. The next day, as the billionaire was about to go out, briefcase in hand and car key ready, Linda came running down the stairs, her face full of excitement and desperation. Please, take me to school. I want to go to school today. Please, she begged, clutching the edge of his shirt like her entire life depended on it. He paused, looked at her tiny hands, then at her hopeful eyes, and smiled. Okay, darling, you're starting tomorrow. You would have thought someone told her she won a gold medal. She jumped, hugged him, and dashed off back inside. By 5:30 a.m. on Thursday morning, Linda was already dressed and sitting in the living room. Her back straight, her bag packed, shoes polished, eyes glued to the clock. She had waited too long to be seen. Today was her day. No one was taking it away from her. They arrived at a grand private school with tall gates, neat hedges, and uniforms so clean they looked ironed by angels. Inside the principal's office, the billionaire sat beside Linda while the elderly principal adjusted his glasses and smiled at her. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Linda gave a sweet smile and said clearly, "My name is Linda." "Beautiful name, Linda," the principal said, writing it down. "And your surname?" Suddenly, silence. Linda's smile faded. She stared at him, then at the billionaire, then down at the floor. The billionaire leaned forward gently and said, "Sweetheart, he's asking for your father's name." Linda looked up slowly. Then, like a whisper wrapped in certainty, she replied, "My father's name is Thompson London." Dead. Silence. The billionaire froze. The principal's pen dropped. For a few seconds, you could hear the clock ticking louder than ever. The billionaire blinked. "Thompson! London!" Linda nodded innocently. "Yes." The principal turned to the billionaire with raised brows. "Sir, do you think she made a mistake?" But the billionaire's face was blank, lips parted, breathing shallow. Something about that name hit him like thunder behind his ribs. Suddenly, he stood up. "Sorry, she won't be starting today. I need to take her somewhere." Urgently. "Not today, Linda." Linda looked confused and crushed. "But I want to start school today." The billionaire knelt beside her, forcing a smile through his pounding thoughts. "And you will, darling, but not today. I promise." He stood up quickly, grabbed her hand, and walked out without another word. Straight to Maranatha Hospital. Back in the car, he didn't speak. He didn't blink. He just drove fast. At Maranatha Hospital, he stormed into Dr. Benson's office without knocking. The doctor stood up, alarmed. "Sir, is everything okay?" The billionaire didn't sit down. His voice was low but sharp. "Please, I need a DNA test." Dr. Benson blinked. "DNA test? Yes," he said, eyes never leaving Linda. "For me? And this girl? Are you saying—" "I'm saying I don't know," the billionaire interrupted, his voice shaking now. "But she just said something that makes me question everything I thought I knew." Flashback. Who is Thompson London? Years ago, there was a young graduate with big dreams and a one-way ticket abroad. But before his travel papers were finalized, he attended a close friend's birthday party. It was meant to be a casual celebration until he saw her. A young woman. Beautiful. Innocent. Serving drinks in a borrowed, beautiful dress. Her name was Agatha. That night, Thompson couldn't take his eyes off her. Something about her simplicity pulled him in like a magnet. One thing led to another. They talked, they laughed, and before midnight, they got involved. A short story that left a long scar. Agatha visited him twice after that night. No promises, no labels. Just two people lost in the heat of youthful emotions. Then one day, Thompson's traveling documents came through. "I'll be back." Stay safe, he said, smiling, holding her hand for the last time. She waved goodbye, not knowing she had a tiny heartbeat growing inside her. 3 months later, Agatha discovered she was pregnant. With trembling hands and tearful eyes, she went to see Madame Alora, Thompson's mother. She expected warmth or at least concern, but instead, she was met with rage. "You must be insane to think I'll accept this," Alora screamed. "You think coming to my house at will to see my son gives you the right to disguise as my son's wife?" "Never." Agatha tried to explain. She didn't even have Thompson's new number. Right there, Alora called her son. "Thompson, a girl is here claiming you got her pregnant?" She hissed. But to her shock, Thompson replied calmly, "If she said I did, then I did. We were in a relationship." Alora's face fell, but she quickly recovered. "You can go," she told Agatha coldly. "If the baby is truly his, bring the child. But don't think you'll stay in my house." 2 months after giving birth, Agatha, tired, broke, and desperate, brought the baby to Madame Alora. She thought motherhood would soften the old woman's heart. She was wrong. Alora took the baby without a single hug, then snapped, "Now leave. And don't you ever come back." That was the last time Agatha saw her child. Let me know if you'd like to. Alora raised the child like a secret pet, well-fed, clothed, but hidden. When little Linda started to talk, Alora would call Thompson in private and hand the phone to her. Her tiny voice would squeak, "Hi, Daddy." Thompson would laugh and call her, "Daddy's princess." Alora would sit there, smiling like a proud witch in disguise. Thompson always introduced himself with flair. "Daddy loves you, my baby. Daddy is Thompson that lives in London." So Daddy is Thompson London. Linda didn't know his face, but she knew his name. That was how the name Thompson London stuck in her heart. When Linda turned 4, Alora handed her the phone to speak with her father as usual. This time, Thompson said, "Darling, what do you want for your birthday gift?" Linda, innocent and honest, rolled her little eyes and replied, "Daddy, please, I want to go to school like my friends in the neighborhood." Thompson chuckled. "Ah, you'll go. I'll send Grandma money next term." He meant well, but that was Linda's offense. After the call, Alora laughed softly, but it wasn't a kind laugh. "Distraction," she muttered. "I don't need any child pulling my son away from his future or becoming a liability to him." 2 weeks later, Madame Alora told Linda, "Let's go get ice cream, darling." They went far. Too far. Somewhere the little girl had never been. They finished the ice cream and night fell. Suddenly, 2 strange men approached them. Alora whispered something to one of them, then walked away. Linda was carried into a car. Inside the car, Linda cried, "I want Grandma! Where's Grandma?" The men didn't respond. After driving for what felt like hours, they stopped under a heavy rain. They opened the door, and before Linda could say another word, they pushed her out into muddy water. Her tiny body hit the ground hard. Rain washed over her as the car sped off into the darkness. When Thompson called days later to speak to his daughter, Alora sighed dramatically. "Thompson, the child took ill. We tried everything. All the money you sent for her schooling, I spent every dime on her. But she didn't make it. I'm so sorry." There was silence. Then, pain. "Don't blame yourself," Alora added quickly. "She was very sick, weak from birth." Thompson wept. He mourned the child he never met, the child who only lived in his ears and heart. Back in the present. As he stood in Maranatha Hospital waiting for the DNA results, the billionaire Thompson London was not just a man. He was a father who just realized he might have been crying over a grave that never existed, and that the child he thought died in sickness was actually thrown away like trash. A moment later, the door opened, and Dr. Benson walked in, holding an envelope. He paused, his face serious. "Sir, the results are out." The billionaire stood up slowly. "And?" Dr. Benson handed the envelope to him. "You should see for yourself." With shaking fingers, Thompson tore open the seal. His eyes scanned the paper once, then twice. His knees almost gave out. He whispered, 99.9%. Match? Dr. Benson nodded. Yes, she's your daughter, sir. No doubt. Thompson looked at Linda. She was staring at him curiously. Are you okay, sir? She asked sweetly. He knelt in front of her, held her little hands, and choked out the words. I'm not just okay. I'm broken, sweetheart. I'm your father. Linda blinked, confused. You? You're Thompson London? Yes. I'm so sorry, baby. I didn't know. I would have never let you suffer. I thought you were gone. Tears streamed down his face. Linda just stared at him, the name echoing in her head. Her lips trembled. You're my dad? Thompson pulled her into his arms. From today, I'll never leave your side again. Never. But by sunrise the next day, the billionaire arrived at the orphanage, but not alone. Government officials, lawyers, welfare officers, journalists. The whole compound was surrounded. The head caregiver stepped out, shaking. Sir, we didn't know. We can explain. Enough, Thompson barked. His voice carried so much fire the birds flew off the trees. You locked up my daughter in a dark room. You nearly killed her. Another caregiver knelt on the ground, sobbing. Please, please forgive us, sir. One of the officials turned to the billionaire. We're ready to begin investigations, but with your permission, we'll seal the orphanage temporarily. Seal it permanently if you must, he snapped. Any place that tortures children doesn't deserve to operate. The media captured every moment. One reporter whispered to her cameraman, he's a billionaire. But this is a father's fury. They begged for mercy, but he refused to consider them. The children were transferred to another orphanage and the place was sealed. At Alora Luxury Residence. Later that day, Madame Alora, Thompson's mother, sat in her massive armchair, sipping from her gold-plated teacup. She was watching the evening news, calmly. Until, breaking news, billionaire Thompson Adams, also known as Thompson London, reunites with his long-lost daughter Linda, whom he believed died years ago. Investigation reveals the child was abandoned in a muddy street under heavy rain. Her hands froze. The teacup slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. What? She jumped to her feet. Linda? That girl is still alive? She grabbed her phone and dialed her son immediately. He didn't pick. She called again. And again. No response. Her voice shook with fear and disbelief. That child was supposed to be gone, long gone. She sank into the chair, her mind racing. If he finds out I lied, that I dumped his own daughter in the rain like a stray dog. She gasped. No, this can't be happening. Meanwhile, Thompson sat in his study, still reading through old files. When a knock came on the door. His assistant peeked in. Sir, Madame Alora is at the gate. Thompson didn't flinch. Tell her I'm not home. The assistant blinked. But sir, she's your mother. I said what I said. His voice was cold. Flat. Linda doesn't need to see the woman who tried to erase her from existence. The guards relayed the message. Madame Alora's face twisted in horror. He won't let me in? He said you should go home, Ma. He said what? She screamed. She wailed. I'm his mother. You can't lock me out of my son's life. Linda, peeking from her room window upstairs, saw the entire scene. She turned to her nanny. Who is that woman? The nanny hesitated. That's your grandma, sweetheart. Linda frowned. But why is she screaming like that? Later that night, Thompson tucked Linda into bed and sat beside her. Darling, there's something I must tell you. Linda looked up, cuddling her teddy bear. What is it, Daddy? He sighed. Do you remember the day your grandma took you out for ice cream, and then those bad men came? Linda's eyes widened. She nodded slowly. That was not an accident. He struggled to continue. My mother, your grandma, arranged it. She didn't want me to raise you. She told me you were dead. Linda's jaw dropped. She lied to you? And threw me away? Thompson nodded painfully. But now you're home, and no one will ever hurt you again. Linda wrapped her tiny arms around him. I love you, Daddy. He hugged her tighter than ever. In the evening, Linda ran around the mansion, marveling at everything. The flowers, the golden staircase, the soft carpet beneath her feet. But Thompson watched her with heavy eyes. Guilt still weighed on him. Then he put a call across to his assistant. I'm taking 2 weeks off. I need to bond with my daughter. No meetings, no interviews, no business. Linda ran back to him, holding a sketch pad. Daddy, look, she smiled. I drew us. Thompson looked at the drawing, two stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. He hugged her again. I'm never letting anyone take you away from me again. Hello, besties. What a journey, right? Linda's story reminds us that rejection is not the end, and sometimes the people meant to love us the most can fail us. But in the end, God's plan always finds us, even in the darkest places. Moral lessons. Number 1, never give up hope, no matter how hopeless things look. Number 2, evil may win for a while, but truth and light always triumph. Number 3, one kind act, like Linda's simple plea to go to school, can change a destiny. And most of all, love always finds a way. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment in your language, bestie. Share with someone who needs to hear this. And of course, subscribe for more heart-touching stories. I love you all so much. God bless you, besties. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and never stop believing.